Gun Rights Radio Network has the best pro Second Amendment, pro gun rights podcast available on the net. The podcasts are absolutely free when subscribing using iTunes or Zune Marketplace. Or if you want, you can just listen from the website. Make sure you visit gunrightsradio.com to subscribe. Podcasting freedom, one episode at a time.
Frank. Now let's, here we got a question from Tim. He's buying a 1911 in the near future, and he has to buy
Good choice.
Yeah, I applaud your choice. Yeah. He has to buy a very inexpensive one, and he's looking at the Rock Island Armory pistol. And I have never, I don't think even handled, there's a number of Philippine-made imports that are coming into the country. There's apparently now 2 or 3 plants in the Philippines that are making pistols, and I'm not really savvy on, there's some kind of brand engineering going on where you'll see a pistol imported, for instance, in this case, as Rock Island Armory. What's that?
Not savvy, Captain Jack?
Right.
All right.
Right.
Sorry.
And then the same pistol is brought in under a different name, so it's branded as something else, but it's the same. I'm a moderator at the 1911 Forum, and I read a lot of the stuff about these Philippine pistols, including the Rock Island Armory. Generally, very, very good reviews on them, and I'm not even sure if that's relative to the price. I mean, these pistols are $400, $450, when even the entry-level pistols from some of the bigger makers are $600, $700. And so I think the people, I don't know if they have lower expectations because the guns are cheaper,
right,
or they are just genuinely really happy with them. And so I think if you really have to get into the 1911 for less than $500, I don't know that there's anywhere else you can go but these Philippine imports, unless you really want to try to shop around for used guns.
There's the used gun market.
Yeah.
My take on that is that in competition shooting, if you really get into it, you're going to be firing a lot of rounds.
Yep.
And for a lot of your average shooters, not competition oriented, a lot of rounds may be 5,000 rounds over the life of a gun.
Mm-hmm.
For us, 5,000 rounds
year.
is half a season or a year or whatever.
Yeah.
So you really want something that's going to stand up to the rigors of competition of firing a lot of rounds through it. That being the case, I think my personal opinion is rather than going with a cheap gun to begin with, is if you have a budget, and we all have a budget somewhere, of trying to find something possibly on the used gun market that's a little bit higher quality to begin with. So you could find yourself a Springfield, or an older Colt, or a Kimber, or something out there that has a proven track record and has a built-in warranty system, so to speak, or at least somebody in the United States to support the gun if something does break, or you're a gunsmith. But at any rate, personally speaking, that's the direction I would head, of trying to find maybe a little bit better gun to begin with rather than going to one of these imports. Now, STI has the Spartan, which is technically an import from the Philippines, but at least you have the warranty system there to back it up. So if something does break with the gun or break on the gun or whatever, you've got STI to basically back the gun. And again, I shoot STI and I really like it. They have a great warranty program there. They'll stand by in pretty much anything for forever.
Question from Dave. In watching the live fire demo in episode 5, part 2, I noticed that Rick is using a 1911 with an ambidextrous thumb safety. I can see from the video how he reaches over with the weak hand to engage the thumb safety when reholstering. One of the ongoing issues with ambidextrous safeties in the 1911 style pistol is the design of the safety and the installation of the safety can have a large bearing on how durable and how effective the part is. There's a small tongue and groove joint in the middle of the pin where the two halves come together in the frame, and that joint is even if it's a well-made quality part, that joint cannot take a lot of torque over a long period of time. And if it's a not well-made part, the joint is going to be weak to begin with. And even if the thing is properly installed and it's a quality part, just the act of flipping the safety on and off and riding the safety as you're shooting, applying constant pressure to it as you're shooting, can weaken or loosen that joint. So since I'm a lefty and I'm using that safety on the left side when I'm actually shooting, if I'm doing a kind of an administrative action, like just flipping the safety on before holstering, I'll reach across and flip the lever up on the strong side of the gun just to save the wear and tear on that pin joint. And so that's somebody actually suggested they thought, wow, it looks like you're using a single-sided safety because you're always reaching over to put it on, but I don't see you reaching over to flip it off. And that's essentially what's going on is I'm flipping it off with my left thumb, but an administrative kind of activation of the safety, I'll flip it on with using the lever on the other side just to save the wear and tear. And that you can also reduce the wear and tear on that pin joint by when you install the safety, make sure you're not removing any more of the grip panel than absolutely necessary so that the safety, when it's off, is actually resting on top of the grip panel. So as you're applying pressure to it, that's not going to torque that pin, but instead it's resting hard on the top of the grip. And on the other side, you want the safety to come all the way down and rest hard against the frame so that, again, as you're riding that thumb safety, you're not torquing that pin.
Yeah, I have an ambi safety on my STI, and I'm right-handed, and I never intentionally use the left-handed side. I mean, even when I'm doing weak-handed shooting, I will flip the safety off with my strong hand thumb, transfer the gun, and go. So it's there, but in my case, I never use it.
Yeah, and all that said, I think the ambi safety has gotten kind of a bad rap as a weak point in the gun. I think that's mostly the result of incorrect installation, not bad design. I mean, I have ambis on all my guns. I've never broken one. One of them, after 10 years of use, I pinched the tongue and groove joint a little bit tighter because it had developed a little flex in it.
Yeah.
But the design has been around for 40 years, and so
it seems like a lot of the guns that are coming out though these days have the ambi safety on them, whether they're
and one of the problems that I find with this whole idea of parts that used to be custom installed that now come from the factory, they're not installed with a custom level of workmanship.
No, that's true.
The gaps and the fitting is done by machine, and it's just not as good. And so, in my estimation, a lot of these custom parts, especially ambidextrous safeties, are better left as a custom part that's hand-fitted to the original, or hand-fitted to that gun, rather than depending on these kind of machine levels of fitting where the grip is over-relieved, the safety lever is left kind of just hanging out in space rather than having a solid rest to ride on. So, like when I'm buying grips, I do not buy the ambi grips that are already cut for the safety. If I buy a gun, I've never bought a gun that came equipped with an ambi safety because I want to fit it myself to make sure that it's
get it right.
It's tight and durable. Yeah. Okay, what else do we have here? Another question. This one is from Owen. Owen, he bought a Glock 23, which is a kind of a mid-sized 40 caliber Glock, and he's got a conversion for 9mm that he can swap into the gun. He says, my understanding is that swapping the barrel for one of a different caliber will push me out of stock service pistol in IDPA and into enhanced service pistol. Now, I think that the answer that I would give for IDPA is you can't change the barrel.
That's the same
and
opinion
it's the
I would
same
give
for
in the
production.
USPSA in
Exactly.
production. Yeah, you can't change the barrel.
You can't change the barrel.
Right.
Now, that is a strict reading of the rules. If you went to the national championships and the guy who's inspecting, doing your kind of your safety check on the gun, sees, G23 stamped on the slide, and when you go to chrono, he sees you've got 9mm bullets, somebody might go, hey, buddy, this gun's not legal for production. At the local club level, nobody is going to know or care whether you've got a 9mm.
No, but the only thing I would say at the local club level, we're talking USPSA now?
Either or.
Okay.
Either
Well,
or.
at the local club level, I mean, somebody might see it and see that somebody's shooting what they know is a Glock 40 technically by the designation on the slide, and know that the guy is shooting 9mm and point out to them that you can't do that legally.
But if you were match director at a match and saw that come up, would you send the guy home?
Next question.
I mean, there's
the problem is though, is if you start bending the rules, it's like, well, I'm not going to apply these,
It's
but
a
I'm going to apply
slippery
those.
slope.
It's a slippery slope.
pretty
And that's
soon you'll be letting people continue to shoot after they've shot
DQs.
themselves.
Yeah, right.
I think it's more a matter of you have a shooter and he shows up and you chase him away on a technicality and maybe he never comes back.
But on the other hand,
Who's
you don't.
benefited?
Yeah, I mean, do we know this is a new shooter, or maybe it's somebody who's out gaming the system is trying to beat everybody?
In what way is he gaming?
He's able. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, the gun is essentially
It's a 9mm.
Right. Now,
effectively,
one thing that did come up, and this is kind of interesting if you really delve into the rules,
Right.
is my understanding is that although the external dimensions of the Glock 23 and the Glock 19 are the same, the external diameter of the barrel is larger on the 40 than on the 9.
Okay. I don't
And
know.
if you took a 40 conversion barrel in 9mm and put it in your gun, you could argue that that's a heavy bull barrel. Just by virtue of the fact that the larger external diameter of the 40 barrel combined with the smaller internal diameter of the 9mm bore.
That would be an interesting question to actually measure them and see if that is the case. You say you know that is the case, or yours?
I believe it to be the case because I think I've seen that.
Because it effectively would be a bull barrel.
Was answered in a number, essentially, what harm am I doing? And so the one thing is, if the only difference is the hole in the barrel is smaller, it's a 9 versus a 40. The external dimensions, the weight, and everything's the same. Why shouldn't they be allowed to do it?
But on the other hand, the thing is that a lot of shooters, they use the club level to get their experience, and if they don't know about this problem and haven't been busted on it, and then they go to a major match or whatever because nobody said anything to them about this. But they go to the major match and it's like, I didn't know.
I think that's a different issue, though, than some guy who shows up and wants to shoot.
Well, that's true.
And you say, hey, I'm sorry, you can't because you've got that barrel.
From that standpoint, I would let them go their first match or whatever. But after that, it's like, I think you pointed out to them and say, hey, you need to really, because of the rules and whatnot, you need to shoot the right barrel in this gun.
And so the answer really is, if you're going to take any interest in the sport on an ongoing basis, you've got to have legal gear. And I think if the question is there a legal issue with the gun, the answer is definitely yes, either due to the change of caliber itself or this bull barrel issue. I mean, the rule in IDPA that bans heavy barrels, you could argue if you put a smaller diameter hole in a larger external diameter barrel, the caliber change per se isn't really the issue. It's the idea that now you've got a bull barrel in your gun. And so I think either one of those rules could apply. And so your gun is not legal, but the flip side of that, of course, is nobody can tell that it's illegal unless it's brought to somebody's attention that it's illegal. You're probably going to slide by, but then you show up at a major match where they're looking for the letter of the rule, and somebody says, hey, you can't put a 9mm barrel on a G23, you're out of luck. And so being surprised by that isn't going to help.
And now you just travel to a major match, paid the match fee, have a hotel, rental car, blah, 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 and all of a sudden you're done.
So
before you even started.
Get the right gun.
Where's that waiter in our beers? It's been a long time.
No tip for that guy. I got a tip for him. Bring us our tip. Okay. So that's it for the questions. That's all our readership has come up with. So,
or whatever. You can send us an email at powerfactorshow@gmail.com. You can hit the website, leave comments there at powerfactorshow.com.
Now, does that have to be Power Factor Show /Maui? Or is it just a regular? Just,
while we're here,
But send it to the Gmail address.
Right. That'll work. Okay.
Thanks.